Welcome back to Josh's Smart Home. Today, we're going to be talking about the fourth subject in how to build an easy and powerful smart home series that I'm putting out. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the exciting part, and that's purchasing and installing your smart home devices. So let's get to it. Remember those basics that we talked about in the first three videos. We talked about planning out your smart home, envisioning what you're going to have where. Having that long-term plan is really essential to lay the groundwork for what you're putting together. Next, we talked about those protocols, and we talked about Zigbee and Z-Wave. We talked about Matter, Thread, Wi-Fi. Talked about everything there that you want to be, cognizant of, and make sure that you're planning out your smart home properly with the proper protocols. And that takes us right into that topic number 3, and that's smart home platform. We talked about whether you should utilize one of the voice assistants like Google Home or Alexa or Apple HomeKit. We talked about whether you should use Home Assistant or SmartThings. So there's a lot of options out there. So make sure if you haven't already checked out those videos that you go back and see those as well, because I think there's a lot of valuable information to get you prepared to start setting up your smart home. And there will be more videos in the series as well to help you along on your smart home journey. So as we move through the first portion of this video, it's going to be about purchasing your smart home devices. And I'm a big fan of just purchasing from Amazon or an online retailer. I don't feel like I find a lot of good deals at any of the brick and mortar stores at this point. Sometimes I do end up going into those if there's a sale or something like that, or I have some type of credit that I can utilize. But I find it much easier to purchase the items on Amazon, or if you want to support the companies directly, maybe it's Narwal for your robot vacuums and mops, or Yarbo for your robot for your yard and your snow cleaning on your driveway. You can go directly to their websites as well as going to Amazon. So I would imagine if you go to their websites, they probably get a slightly higher portion of the income. So if you want to support them a little more, that's an option for you as well. But like I said, in most instances, I just go right to Amazon and I'm able to find what I'm looking for there and get a pretty reasonable price and get the delivery super quick. When you're really trying to decide which device should be first for you to set up, there's a number of things that you should consider. First, like we already spoke about, you want to talk about compatibility with your ecosystem. And that's, again, much more important when we're talking about sensors or small devices that you want to interact with something else rather than a large standalone device that really doesn't need to. Next, you want to think about ease of setup. And this is where a lot of times the sensors or the smart plugs are super easy to set up, a great way to get started. If you're talking about light switches, they're a great product, but it takes a little bit more time and effort to get it set up. So maybe that shouldn't be your first device because you do, potentially have to get into the wiring and such depending on what you're setting up there. So I'd find something that's really easy to set up. Next, I'd be looking at the budget. I wouldn't start with something super expensive. I'd stick to a lower cost item, try it out, see how this works for you, see how you like it. Don't start by spending tons of money on really high end, sensors and that type of thing. It's really not worth it. And I find a lot of the cheap sensors to work really well anyway. I think I mentioned previously that I really like the Aqara brand for the Zigbee devices and all the sensors there. And finally, you can have information like I'm providing you, but another good avenue to determine which one you should purchase are the reviews. Don't just skip out on the reviews and don't just look at the number of stars right off the bat. I like to look for a higher number of stars with a lot of reviews, and then sometimes I'll poke around into the reviews and just read a couple of them, see if they seem to be AI generated or paid reviews or what the situation is, if it's really resounding reviews there. Now that you have your device and you purchased it, it's time to do the install. And this varies depending on which device you have. But if you have a device that uses Zigbee or Z-Wave and you need to put your dongle on to your Home Assistant, or if you have something like SmartThings that has those broadcasts out there for Zigbee and Z-Wave, you can connect those and have it search for those devices. And you can pair those at that time. You can give them a name, put them in a room, and have everything set up pretty quickly and easily. I do have a video up here that I'll link that talks about when I moved over from Samsung SmartThings to Home Assistant and just show you what that process is like and how easy it is to do some of those setups. If you have things that aren't Zigbee or Z-Wave, maybe you have a Wi-Fi device, so you're going to follow the procedures to make sure it has good coverage and can connect to your network. Sometimes you have to play around with the different frequencies. Sometimes you have to turn off the 5 gigahertz and have it run on the 2.4 to be able to connect certain devices. So you're going to have to follow the procedures depending on which device you get. But once you get it set up there and integrated into your system of choice, it's not a really hard lift. If you have something directly in Home Assistant, you can expose those over to a voice assistant as well. And if you use your voice assistant as your main hub, a lot of times in those, like in Google Home or Amazon's version, you can go in and say add device, and you can search and find what you're looking for and add it in. Google has like a works with Google, I think they call it. And Apple has HomeKit, so you have a lot of options there to link everything up. HomeKit is by far, the easiest out of the three voice assistants on identifying and connecting things, but Home Assistant is actually probably even easier than that. Honestly, if you set up Home Assistant, you're probably going to find things in your house that are already compatible with Home Assistant that it finds instantly, because almost all of us do have smart devices, even if you don't think of them that way. And it could be some type of television or a Roku or whatever the case may be, where it integrates directly into Home Assistant and it does it very easily. Another thing you might find is you may need to install an app from a manufacturer, especially if you have a Wi-Fi device. A lot of times you have to install an app and create an account if you don't already have one. And if you have a bunch of devices from the same manufacturer, you only have to do this once. So it's not a huge lift. And ideally, you want to get away from having a lot of different apps. So maybe use it for initial setup, and then it's exposed to one of your other platforms that you don't have to go back to that app again. And if you do have to set up the app separately, that's where you'd be looking in Google Home, in the Works with Google, or in the Amazon Assistants app, and connecting those that way. So you'd say, it's this brand of device, and you go in there and you find it, and then you connect the two. And once you log in, typically you're going to use that same username and password to connect the two, and then you'll have those devices exposed directly in your platform of choice. So whether you're starting with security, convenience, or energy saving, or a little bit of everything, this is how you get started. And you want to make sure that your first devices really fit this procedure that I laid out for you. Now, there are a couple instances where that's maybe not the best way to begin, and those will be instances where you're buying a couple items that really don't link with anything else, or you don't really have any automations initially you want to set up. So you just want to save a lot of time. So you grab that Narwal and the Yarbo and you say, look at all this time I'm saving. I don't need a hub for these things. I can just run them from the app and I'm good to go. And that is a fine way to get started. So there you have it. Your first smart home devices are purchased and installed. Pretty satisfying, isn't it? Make sure you stay tuned, like and subscribe so you don't miss the future episodes, because I am going to talk about much more interesting things such as automations and how to make everything in your home smart and unified together as much as possible. Leave a comment below letting me know what your first smart home device was. And also, if you have any questions, let those down there as well. I try to respond to every comment that I get. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.